Well, hello there. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Slidin into my DMs, part of the D4 network. This is the show where we talk about D&D news, about D&D rules, especially today, and then, just basically giving advice for how to make sure that everybody at your table is having as much fun as possible.
Yeah.
We optimize the fun.
And immediately make it seem not as fun when you say that.
You can't
Please keep
optimize
watching.
fun.
Don't go. Come back.
Come back, Charlie.
So, my name's Colby. I'm your host. Thanks for being here. Appreciate having you. With me, as always, are some of my DMs. So, we have Dallin. We've got Preston. We've got Corey with us today. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate having you. And, how's it going?
Going good.
So good. It's almost time to eat turkey.
Finished. Oh, yes.
Turkey
yes.
Genocide, Eyes of the Dark One.
Very excited for...
Yummy.
I've been failing my survival check, so I haven't
Thanksgiving.
gotten the turkey yet.
Oh, no.
But they've gotten
it's hard
me
to find.
several times.
Roll me an investigation check. There might be one
You found a
under the
Cornish
table.
hen.
Ah, is it actually turkey?
Yeah. This isn't turkey, it's spam. You don't know that. You failed your investigation check. As far as you know, it's turkey.
Turkey with
It
chopsticks.
all tastes like chicken anyway.
Spam flavored chopsticks. Chopsticks sticking in.
So, not a lot of channel news really to talk about, I don't think, today. It's been an awesome week for nerds.
Yeah.
I mean, Arcane is like my new favorite show of all time.
You guys realize we got a Dota and a League of Legends show
I
this
know,
year
but the
from Netflix?
Dota one just isn't
It
as
wasn't.
good.
Yeah,
It was okay. It was fun.
fine.
It was fun.
It was just,
Felt like for money, not for the story.
Similar to the games, one is just clearly superior. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Adding to the comment algorithm by the people that want to fight about
true.
Dota and League of Legends.
All you heroes are Network
war.
fans and Dota fans.
I'm a Heroes of the Storm player myself. Tell me how that's going. I mean,
I play console. So,
Shots
come
fired.
at me.
Shots fired.
so only the Pokemon MOBA, whatever it's called, Pokemon Unite. Yeah.
Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about. We don't need to
It's
get into
not-
it. This is
it is
not
what it
a
is.
this is not a all things fantasy review show, but
That would be a fun show.
It would be.
But I think there's
We
like
should start a
8,000. I
podcast.
think there's like 8,000 of them.
yeah. I don't know about that Wheel of Time. Mixed feelings. But anyway, that's not
Ghostbusters. Not really
Right,
fantasy,
right.
but sort of.
It is nerd culture.
Yeah,
though.
sure.
Yeah.
Culture.
so it's been a good week.
Yeah.
And we get to play Dungeons and Dragons tonight. So that's awesome.
Definitely. We skipped a week, and you'd think that would give me enough time to prep everything that I needed to prep, but
Don't tell
life
us this.
life finds a way.
We don't need to know these
The
things.
DM
Yeah,
doesn't
just
prep. The DM just shows up and goes, here's a list of cities, here's a list of people,
Yep.
roll a dice, and call it good.
Yeah,
Everybody has
pretty
fun.
much it. That's what being a DM is.
Okay, I guess we don't have to do the show
Randomized
anymore.
rules,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Thanks, everybody.
No, I am prepared tonight.
True
Awesome.
chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So typically on this show, we'll do like a quick ruling where we have one rule that is just like a burr in my saddle, and I got to talk about it and figure out what's going on with it, and then we have like a deeper dive into another topic that that we kind of get into that usually revolves around kind of tips and tricks and ideas for improving the play at your table, or sometimes news, right? Today I wanted to just have, in true Thanksgiving fashion, a smorgasbord of quick ruling questions, because the reality is I have a lot more like on my to-do list. I have a lot more like rules questions that either I am coming up with, or oftentimes the commenters in my optimized videos are asking me about, or telling me that I did something wrong, or I can't believe you forgot
This
X
is Colby's
because,
group
blah, blah, blah.
validation section.
Yes, exactly. So you guys are here to tell me that I'm
Welcome to
okay,
therapy.
I'm doing everything all right.
The saddle is more burr than saddle at this point. Is that what I'm hearing?
Lots and lots of birds.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I would rather go bareback. Don't
In true
take that
In true Surrey
anywhere
fashion.
other than how I intended it. In true Surrey fashion. So I have
An
this
order
I have like
board.
a backlog of quick rulings
Yep.
that I want to get to, that I'm realizing like that I'm never going to get to unless I maybe take an episode once in a while and just kind of knock a bunch out of them. So we don't have like a deep dive today. Today, the deep dive is the appetizers. It's tapas. We're just doing tapas today.
It's just the charcuterie of
exactly.
questions.
Yes. So I've got 4. We'll see if we have time to get to all of them. 4 quick ruling questions that I wanted to ask you guys about.
All right.
If you're okay with it. And let's just jump in.
Let's do it.
All right. So the first question. This is okay. So this last week I did a build on the mom. It was the martyr, but the joke was that it was the mom build because it was a healer, right, who just uses life transference, and they're a really good cook. And at one point I multiclassed into druid, and as is the case almost every single time I multiclass into druid, not always, but most of the time, somebody, or more like 25 somebodies in the comment section are like, how are you doing metal armor with the druid? But what I think first off is, oh yeah, crap, I always forget about that stupid druid and their stupid metal. And then I type something that's slightly less filled with the word stupid.
Slightly less.
Dumb metal with
Yeah.
stupid.
And so okay, here's the question. And people have been discussing this since 5e was a thing, and they will continue to do so. We're not going to settle this debate here.
No.
But
But we'll tell you our opinion.
just to throw our own hat in the ring on whether or not druids can wear metal armor. Can druids wear metal armor or use metal shield? Or maybe more accurately, what would happen if they donned metal armor, right? Because we're told in the player's handbook that druids will not wear armor or use shields made of metal. And so, yes, the great debate is, well, is will not the same thing as cannot? And people have asked Jeremy Crawford, and he's jokingly replied, they'll explode. And some
Turn to
people
a pillar of
take
salt.
that literally, and they're like, nope, he said they'll explode. And it's like, if you watch the video, he was joking, but whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it comes down to, can druids wear metal armor, or maybe more accurately, what will happen if they do? Because that's the thing, right? In the book, we don't get any rules about consequences. We're just told they won't do it.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, like, what if I do, right? I have some strong feelings about this, but I'll maybe wait to rant until I hear your guys' take on it. So
I feel like Corey has feelings about this.
So, your rant that you gave us over chat was a lot of like, what if I decide to wear metal buckles?
I've still got it.
Okay,
fine.
I have to wait until after your rant in order to show you up.
There's an order to this.
Okay.
All right, let's do the rant.
All right.
Let's see how that goes.
So I think that it's silly that we're told that it can't be done. I think, or if people claim that it can't be done, I guess. I get it that there are lore reasons, and this is just kind of how it's always been in D&D, and therefore it's just how it always is going to be. But it's like, druids can use metal weapons. Why? Can they eat with a metal spoon? Can they drink out of a metal cup? Like, what's the aversion to metal? Why we can't don it on our bodies? Is it because, is it an anti-nature thing? It comes out of the ground, it comes out of the earth, we tinker with it, and okay, well, then is it a technology thing? Is it we don't like man-made stuff? Well, then can you not sit in a chair? That's men took wood and they, you know what I mean?
Saddle.
Like,
where's the line?
yeah, exactly. and like, okay, hide armor. Like, hide armor is gonna have like little metal buckles. What about studded leather?
Not necessarily for hide or leather armor.
So can I wear studded leather as long as the studs are made from like bone or stone? Like, what's the ratio of metal that, you know what I mean, that you cannot cross,
the hard and fast line,
beyond which you will explode? Right, like, no, sorry, there's a 13% metal to non-metal ratio on your armor, and you have crossed that threshold. Therefore,
You're
it
dead.
can't be done. So it bothers me. I think I get that there are some lore-ish reasons to it, but I don't know. I don't like it. I think it's a severe mechanical disadvantage for druids generally.
And loot tables. I mean,
and
when
I think
talking about loot, there's not a lot of loot that says specifically, "Oh, this made a bone for specific."
Yeah, I mean, there are workarounds. There are dragonhide armors.
Yeah.
There are things like that. But it's like, not everybody's just going to have access to dragonhide armor, like, at level 1, right?
That makes sense.
And so, anyway, I get annoyed, obviously. But I want to know what you guys think. So, yeah, put me in my place.
So this is a clear example of you're letting mechanics overrule actual, like, what a druid is, right? A druid is the religion of being a druid is you love nature. Mm-hmm. You push away society. You don't go into society. It's basically like being like a Mennonite or, or a
hermit.
Yeah, well, like a hermit, but more religious than that. Like there is a specific technology line that you won't cross because that's what your religion is, right? So in 3.5, when they came up with this rule, it was because like it would make it so you cannot use nature abilities, and they came up with it partially because there was also like a spell failure penalty for any spells that were cast when you were wearing metal armor, and druids specifically, they just were like, oh, they don't wear metal because it's it's more process, it's man-made, plus mining is a very intensive process that kind of goes against nature typically. Like you see that a lot in
so druids are hippies.
Sure. They are very much hippies.
The man, industrialists.
Mm-hmm. But just like a cleric's, like a paladin in 3.5 or a paladin in 5e won't go against what their god tells them. A druid won't go against nature and be like, well, I'm gonna use a metal spoon. Instead, I'm just going to druid craft druid shape a spoon out of a branch and call it good there. I think that what you're getting at here is that there is no physical limitation in 5.3. There is, like, it doesn't say you cannot your god will forsake you.
5.3.
5.3.
Your god will forsake you if you do this.
There's no like you can't cast nature spells while you're holding metal or anything like that. Yeah. It's more of as a druid, your character would not be the type of person that's like, well, a little metal is okay. I mean, there might be some of those out there that's like, oh yeah, I wear this iron band that I got from my mother because it was significant to her or something like that. And it also comes from mythology, just general folklore. Whenever you're talking about creatures of the forest, creatures of nature, of the fae, that sort of thing, like cold iron. Iron
yes.
And other metal is basically like that was the way to push it back because it was this whole like, hey, if you want to be safe from the weird things that are in the forest that nobody really knows about, why don't you use this newfangled technology, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it just kind of evolved from there because D&D does pull a lot from folklore.
Sure. Right.
But I don't think mechanically there's any reason you wouldn't. As far as your character goes, though, you should really consider what it means to be a druid as a character, like in a character sense.
Mm-hmm. So you got to be all in. There's no morally gray.
You have
druids.
I can't be a jack druid.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I want to be a jack druid.
You have to be willing to
metal on the weekends.
Limit yourself metal on the weekends and on some holidays.
Some holidays. I go to mass every once in a while.
Yep. I go to Stonehenge and perform the rituals when I need to. When it's like a blessing for a new druid baby or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that you really have to look at that from a character perspective rather than just from a game perspective.
Sure.
Because if you start being like, oh, I'm a druid and I can wild shape and I'm really in touch with nature, but I'm also wearing a breastplate, and it's just kind of like you're not really fitting the aesthetic and what comes to the mind with druid. And maybe we should look into a different class for you in that case. One that can cast spells and isn't so restrictive as far as like their tenants go.
Right. Yeah. Or homebrew the item itself. Exactly. I mean, maybe it's not made of steel. Maybe it's made of shale bark of this whatever iron tree.
My first ever sponsor that I had on my optimized videos was a 5e
the Druid one.
book. Druid Secrets of the Primal Circle. Check it out if you're interested. Google it. And they actually, one thing that I really enjoyed about that book is they did a great job of both delving into the lore of why they won't wear metal armor, and also giving them lots of, from the get-go, like options that did not suffer any mechanical, penalty, but maybe spell that you could cast that would create like bone bone armor or like malleable like stone like discs and things that you could put. I mean, so different variety of things that I thought was cool. And though something that I really appreciated was they also included some actual mechanical penalties for if you don metal armor, because the thing that bothers me the most about it, I think, is not that there's this prohibition against metal. I mean, that bothers me a little bit. Sometimes I'm kind of like, but whatever. But what bothers me is that we're just told you will not. But
there's no.
It's almost like we're working on the honor system here. So like you got. And it's like this is a game.
You're
of
literally
rules.
talking about every religion right now.
Yeah. But this is not a religion.
There is no there is no immediate consequence for what is happening.
It will happen when you die.
I think what you're saying though applies to all the classes. It's not just druids. Like, so if we're playing a very lateral, flat, like a paladin character, right, where there's no growth and they do exactly what their patron tells them at all times and nothing changes, that's fine. But there's that pro and con. I find for me, like, okay, what if the character's mother dies or something and she gives them this metal dagger that's been handed down for generations, and they don't want to use it unless they're in dire situation.
They can use weapons.
They can use metal weapons. There's no prohibition.
I know. But what I'm saying is like
armor and shields.
About talking about like just metal in general. They're trying to distance themselves from that kind of thing. Maybe it was like, hey, here's a breastplate from your dad, or like giving it some kind of a story reason, to me feels a lot better than just saying, oh, you're not going to do that because your religion says no.
To me, like the fact that we're sort of given this very specific, they won't do it, but no actual like game mechanic for if
Why?
they do.
I've got some suggestions.
It's just like, well, this to me, it's like this is advice, this is flavor, this is
guidelines.
This is a suggestion. But like if I don't follow it.
No, there's no penalty.
But you're also talking about the difference between being a person who goes, I want to play a druid and everything that entails, which includes the no metal restriction, or an optimizer who just says, I want to take a couple levels of druid.
But see, and this is getting into a longer conversation. Maybe this is the deep dive.
This is the deep dive.
Like, stay tuned for the quick ruling.
I don't know. I don't think it's that black and white, right? Like, I think that just like Wizards of the Coast recently has said, you know what, we're gonna decouple ability score increases from races, because maybe you want to play an elf who's not necessarily dexterous. You know what I mean? Maybe you're a hardy elf, or a dexterous dwarf, or a charismatic
goblin.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Goblin. Like, I don't know why I couldn't say, no, like, I'm in with the druids, man. Like, I'm hippie, and it's cool. But, like, I am a druid that...
Right.
I don't want to...
You come rolling up with a breastplate on and a helm over your shoulder. What's up, fellow druids?
Exactly.
You know?
What if it was black and white? Then there wouldn't be any subclasses.
Insert Steve Buscemi meme.
Yes, exactly. So I think this actually... I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and this is a great time to talk about it, is I've stopped looking at classes as the end-all be-all for what your character is, right? And it started around the time where I was trying to reconcile a bard, warlock, paladin from somebody who shall remain nameless. And I was just like, how do these things mesh together? And then I just went, no, I need to stop thinking about I'm a paladin, I'm a warlock,
right.
I'm
it's
a
custom
bard.
class now.
You're basically a custom class,
you're a person,
and you're just boiling it together, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and again, there is no mechanical restriction. As a DM, I might say, oh well, in my world, metal isn't affected by nature magic, so it doesn't shift with you, okay? And so that means that you have to really think about your wild shape, because you'll be leaving your metal armor behind, or you know, if you're a bear and you got a metal ring on, might cause you.
If I want to go rogue druid and become a literal cat burglar, where you go in, put it on, turn into a cat with the Inu, no one can see.
So you just go tabaxi rogue, by the way.
Basically,
you don't even have to druid.
But the druid thing is to hide all the metal that you just stole. So
right.
Yeah, but I think it was around the time where I was introduced to one of the characters in Preston's campaign who decided that they were a paladin, but they wanted to take a rogue and rogue cross class, and I was just like, I was just like, what? No, why?
Yeah.
It just took me off guard. And now I'm just like, whatever. Just play whatever class you want. If there's no mechanical restriction, I'm not going to care about it.
Yeah.
You know. That being said, I remember when I first got 3.5 books, I got them alongside the Warcraft role-playing game, and they had druids in there that could wear a special. They called it Ironwood, and
Yes.
it was basically just. It's just metal, but it's just
petrified wood.
It's just wood that they've enchanted to be as hard as iron. And it's like, okay, well, that's an easy way to explain it. And I think, Dallin, you said you had a few other.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say you can always just reflavor things, right? Like,
Sure.
so you're still getting the statistics of whatever metal, whatever
Unless
you
it's a
want,
very
and just
specific thing.
and just flavor it as chitin or
Yeah.
scales or whatever.
That's
You can
something
look
that
like
always
one of the
feels-
Lost Boys when they put their wooden
Yeah,
armor
you've
on.
got just the bone armor
Yeah.
or whatever. But if you're in a game where, as the DM, you're like, no, there's going to be penalties, and I want to introduce them. Apparently, that's in 3.5. But I had some suggestions as well. Maybe just it starts out simple, like non-mechanical, just like an allergic reaction, just like an itch, just kind of bugging you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe if you don't take it off after that, now your max hit points get reduced. You can never heal to full.
Yeah.
Or to full. And then maybe after that, there's a percentage of the time that your nature spells don't work. It sounds like that's already a mechanic.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I thought I was being smart, but I guess they already did it.
Well, I think in
You were being
3.5,
smart.
yeah, I mean, they obviously did away with that because they
Right.
didn't like the idea of people failing their spells just because they decided
Right.
they wanted to wear a buckler. But at the same time, like, I think it's more prevalent in Pathfinder. There's like a spell failure chance. But even in
Yeah.
Pathfinder, like, it's arcane spells only, not nature spells
Right.
Yeah.
technically. And it's like what is the penalty? And I think it's just a matter of, like, you can't
Right.
use your abilities.
If you did something like, let's say, for instance, you take one of the pre-built modules and you wanted to play it by the book and what's in the treasure vault and all the other stuff, and you have an entire party of druids, and it's all like, this is for bards, or this is, like, you have to flex. They're like Dallin was saying, like, and what we've all kind of alluded to is that taking those items, maybe reflavoring them, unless they're a very specific thing that has to be that's integral to the story, then maybe be a little bit more rigid. But
Okay, so 20 minutes in, quick ruling. Can druids wear metal armor?
at my table, yes.
Yes.
Wait, no. Rules as written.
Rules is
written, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, no.
Yes, with penalties that I come up with.
That's not rules is written. Rules
Okay,
is,
fine.
Rules written.
Yeah, no.
Now the qualifier
Yes.
there's can.
Okay.
Will they?
Okay.
Will they? Should
Yes.
they?
Okay, so
Yeah, I
so you've all said yes that it's allowable rules as written at your table, and obviously, like, you may change this like, not to put you on the spot, but off the top of your head, at your table, if I were a druid and I wore metal armor, what would happen? Anything?
How many
Nothing?
levels
Something?
of druid are we talking? How many oaths have you taken? to your druid?
I'm a level 2 druid.
Like, probably not. But like,
I got my circle.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the players too. Like, if they're wanting a crunchy game with like realistic mechanics, then yeah, there's going to be penalties. If it's just fun role play, whatever, then no, probably not.
If you come to me with a good thing, then I will totally
Like
allow
That
it.
sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Guy Fieri of D&D?
Yeah. Welcome to D&D Flavor Town. I would say that that metal does not shift with you when you wild shape. Maybe give you a, like, on a natural one on a spell, maybe it backfires or something like that, because the metal reflects it back at you.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, give me a good reason. And obviously, we've never had a druid really at our table for longer than a one shot. But I really, like, if somebody was like, I want to play a druid, I would want to sit down with them and discuss, like, okay, what does your druid sect believe? What is going on here? Like, here's some stuff, here's some lore. We need to
Where's the
decide this,
tenets? Yeah.
because we need to figure that stuff out beforehand, so that if you start going like, oh, I'm gonna grab that tower shield, I'll be like, that's kind of against what you believe as a druid. Are you sure you want to do this? You know, and that makes for a really cool character moment. But at the same time, it's just like,
Totally.
you have to be able to let the optimizing go for roleplay every now and then, because otherwise everyone else gives you that look like, what like, I don't understand, what is this OC that you've created, 13-year-old boy? You know, he's a druid but he can wear metal and he also has dragon wings.
All right. So there you have it, everybody. The debate has been settled.
Yes.
For
It's
good.
clear as day.
Yep.
And from now on,
Don't ask us
whenever
again.
I multi-class into Druid and I'm wearing metal armor and I don't say anything about it in the video, I'm just going to point everybody to this and just say, I don't want to get into it, but go and watch this video. At our table, I think it's generally allowed, and maybe I'll talk to my DM and see if I'm going to have any penalties.
Yeah. And one more thing that I do want to mention is there's a lot of archetypes that used to exist in other editions for everybody at home who wants to take a drink, and for other just other like games that don't have a good home outside of Druid, because there's only really one nature class in D&D. Sure, you can go cleric and flavor it.
I mean, Ranger
A little bit.
Ranger.
But
Rangers
like,
are the Jack Druids.
but like your shamans that deal with like elemental magic, your wardens that like I loved the warden in 4th edition where it was this, I'm a nature but I'm also a tank, and I've got like these cool like shapeshifts that I can do to help be more tanky and everything, and it's like there's nowhere to do that.
Your witches.
Yeah, like your witches, that kind of thing. It's like you have to put them somewhere, and a druid's the best place, and sometimes that means you have to wear armor if you want to be effective. So play it by your own ear as a DM, but I don't think that, like, again, there's no mechanical reason you can't. It's just that you shouldn't.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the next question. This one I think will be a little quicker, although it is perhaps more convoluted. I think this was from the Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric build
Yeah.
that I did, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, there you go. Thank you. And the question came up. So this character had a level of Warlock so that they could get Hexblades Curse.
Yeah.
And the question, one of the users, I can't remember who it was, one of the commenters, kind of asked this question, and I was like, you know what? I've never really thought about that. It's a very minutia type question, but you know what? There's a lot of those minutia type questions in D&D. So here's the question. Since Hexblades Curse specifically says we get a bonus to damage rolls against a target, okay? But Destructive Wrath from the Tempest Cleric says that we just deal max damage on lightning and thunder instead of rolling.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we get to add the Hexblades Curse damage if we're doing a lightning or a thunder spell that normally you'd roll 8d6 or whatever, but instead of rolling, we're just doing 48
And remind me,
damage.
Hexblade's Curse doesn't have a specific type associated with the damage type, right?
It's the same damage as you've dealt, right?
Okay.
So do we get to add the Hexblade's Curse damage because we're specifically told in Hexblade's Curse that it's when we that we get a bonus to damage rolls, and in this case we're not rolling, we're just doing a flat 48 damage. So yes, Destructive Wrath, Hexblade's Curse. Do I get to add damage from Hexblade's Curse?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a damage roll. You're just not doing the act of rolling.
Okay.
Normally,
you just get max damage on what you would have rolled.
So it's the cleric's feature that's telling you, instead of rolling all these dice because it's max damage, what a waste of time, you just take the max number.
Damage. Okay.
So it is a damage roll. You're just not physically rolling dice.
I
Preston
agree.
agrees?
I agree.
Corey?
Yeah, I mean that seems fine to me. You're getting what, 5 at the most out of it?
I think it's your proficiency.
6. It's your
and-
proficiency bonus. So
It's your proficiency.
capped at
bonus.
6.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're getting 6
not
extra
gonna break the
damage
bank.
out of it. It's like, whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
This is literally the question that like an optimizer would bring to me and I go,
Well,
yeah, fine.
Well, and to further clarify too, like to the point of for those who want to know raw, right? When it says the damage, whenever you have to roll for that damage, normally you would roll for that, and the only thing that's prohibiting you from rolling is this other feature.
And
so
it's channel divinity, right? So
It
it's,
is a channel
it's
divinity.
limited.
Once
It's
per
not,
short
yeah.
rest.
and it's
Well,
not, and
twice
it's
if
not.
you're level 6.
So yeah, I mean, it's, instead of, I don't know. That's where I would probably get into, back and forth conversation where if people want to.
So what about for other abilities that just do flat damage, like Armor of Agathis, for example? When we get hit, if we have Armor of Agathis on us, temporary hit points, it returns just a flat damage amount, 5 damage if it's a level 1 spell, right?
Yeah.
So you'd say no there because there never was a roll to begin with.
Correct.
Right.
There's no damage roll done, and so if it's a thing where it's like you would have rolled, but instead you have this ability that just lets you, instead of rolling, do max damage, then yes. But if it only ever always was just flat damage, then no Hexblades Curse bonus.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And I mean, as far as like some people like to modify their crit rules to be it's just max damage, right? Instead of rolling twice. And if that's the case, then it's like, okay, every time I crit, I lose up to 6, damage in that case too. It's one of those things where it's like, was there a roll intended for this attack?
Right.
If yes, then add the bonus. If no, then no, sorry.
Because again, it's one of those ones where neither one necessarily is more specific than the other.
Sure.
They both coexist, but they don't.
Yeah, I love that the specific trumps the general rule because it's so often
Which one's
unclear
specific?
as
Yeah,
to
it's like which one goes
specific.
first? Like which one
Is
is
it the class feature or the spell or the whatever?
Yeah, I would say if you're going off of that logic, then you might have a good argument to be like, no, because it says instead of rolling the dice, you deal max damage. I think if you're a DM and you want to argue that, you probably could easily at your table, but as far as it goes, it's like
6 damage.
Yeah, 6 damage twice.
12 damage.
It's not going to be a make or break situation.
Well, okay, yeah.
Because of the channel divinity
the
or
point
however
is,
many.
I mean, obviously there are probably other things out there that I'm not thinking about off the top of my head right now that like maybe would do multiple hits against that Hexblade Curse target, and then it could be 5 damage, 5 damage, 5 damage, 5 damage, or whatever.
I mean, so as far as it goes, a good one for that would be Magic Missile too, right? Like again. Do you roll each missile individually or do you roll them as one for that kind of thing? But I don't think that as far as like in this specific instance of you max the damage, it's going to break your bank as a DM. That's one extra minion in your combat, or that's or one less boss that you guys have to fight, for a turn and a half. But that's not really anything.
One more throwaway, but it makes the player feel cool because they're like, bam, bam, bam. Like, I just like knocked out 3 things and it makes you feel good. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you. Next question. This is fun. I like this. Okay, so question number 3.
Fan the hammer.
It's like a Q&A, but I don't have to answer questions about myself.
This question comes from just my last week's episode, Eldritch Knight with the Bladesinger, which, by the way, like
blown away,
totally like blew away previous records on like first video to 10,000, first video to 20,000 views, first video to 30,000 views, 40,000 views.
Is this the first Eldritch Knight that you've done?
The first like
focused Eldritch?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've dipped into Eldritch Knight before, but I've never done like primarily Eldritch Knight before. Yeah.
That's cool. Nice.
I think that's partly why, and because I put Bladesinger in there too.
Everyone loves it.
Everyone loves Bladesinger, including me. Okay, so here's the question. Could you use Haste to make a Booming Blade or Green Flame Blade attack if you're a level 6 Bladesinger? So we've talked about Haste before. We've talked about Booming Blade before. We've talked about Bladesingers and what they can and can't do with their cantrips. But just for reference, in case you're not clear, Bladesingers, when they get level 6, they get extra attack. But of course, instead of just making 2 attacks, we are told you can cast one of your cantrips in place of one of those attacks. Right. So you take the attack action. Let me read the whole thing.
Semantics.
You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Moreover, when you take the attack action, essentially, you can cast one of your cantrips in place of one of those attacks. Okay? And then we have Haste, which tells us that, we get an extra action on our turn, but that action can only be used to take the attack, parentheses, one weapon attack only, dash, disengage, hide, or use an object action. Okay, so I think you know where I'm going here, right? So so the question is like, does the Bladesinger feature that says when you take the attack action, you can replace one of those weapon attacks with a cantrip? Does that mean that if I'm a Bladesinger, level 6, and I have the extra attack, and I'm hasted, can I use that extra attack that I get from haste to cast a cantrip?
No.
I've been waffling on this all day.
Now, specifically, it says for a melee weapon attack, right?
No. It
One
says
weapon
one
attack.
weapon attack only.
One weapon attack.
And Bladesinger says you can replace one of your weapon attacks.
Says you can place one of your attacks with
One
a
of your
cantrip.
attacks with a cantrip.
Yes, you can cast one of your cantrips.
Yeah, this
you
is a
can
really
cast one of
great
your
area.
cantrips in place of one of those attacks.
This is one of those. Which one's more specific?
Yeah,
kind
one
of
I
thing?
feel like in
So-
this case, haste is the most specific because it's you have all the stuff that's class specific. You have the stuff that's about the Bladesinger and then haste is specific to when this only is active at this one specific point in time. I feel like that it would supersede.
Obviously, I'm not a DM, but I think it's fairly clear in my mind anyway that when you cast the Booming Blade cantrip, you are casting a spell. Now,
Yes.
as part of that spell, you're making a weapon attack.
But it's still a spell.
It's still a spell.
So
As long-
I don't think it qualifies as the one weapon attack only because.
But I think that's where the clarification
that's where
has to be.
it's-
Is if it says a melee spell attack, if it says that in the spell description, then I would consider it a spell attack. But if it doesn't, then I would probably, as a DM, I would probably see that as you're making a weapon attack with a spell effect on it. That's fine.
Yeah. So haste, and this kind of goes back to 3.5, is haste was used by wizards, and it made them extremely powerful because they could cast double fireball, and then they could do a quicken fireball after that, and all of these other like meta magic things that would make it so that they could basically just nuclear strike the end boss. So they changed haste specifically so that you cannot cast spells with that action. I think that has to include this Bladesinger addition
cantrip
onto the
attack.
end, because Bladesinger wasn't a core thing. Like, they weren't thinking of the Bladesinger when they came up with haste, and when it came down to the Bladesinger, they didn't think of haste in that instance. Obviously, like, that might be an oversight on their part. They should errata something like that.
Right.
But I don't think that haste is designed to allow you ever to be able to cast an extra spell on your turn.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that-
Well,
Even if you
Bladesingers-
have a feature that says when you take the attack action, you
Right.
can replace
See, this
one
is
of
where
the
it's
attacks.
kind of
One
like
of
the
those.
unleashing.
One of those, I think, is the big keyword there, because you're basically saying, like, when you have more than one attack with the attack action, you can replace one of them with a spell, not just I take a weapon attack and replace it with a spell. Yeah. Like, it says one of those specifically, so it means that you have to have more than one attack in order to replace it.
But this build
it's
is
semantic.
Jeremy
I know.
Crawford has been eerily silent on this. I dug and dug to see what he had to say. And people have asked him, and he hasn't responded.
Yeah,
And
it's because it's
he's like,
embarrassment.
"Oops, I don't want to."
Yeah,
nope, we're not.
I can't
dealing
believe
with
we
that.
missed that.
Oversight.
That's
Yeah.
oversight.
So for what it's worth, you guys might be surprised to find that, like, I thought about this when I was building the character, and I was like, nah.
Yeah.
and I actually for once was like, no, I don't think I can get an extra booming blade out of that. Like, I'm just gonna assume that, like, we can only make a weapon attack here.
Yeah.
Granted, I was smiting and all other kinds of things with that weapon attack, so still doing
You'd
both
have
those
Best not be
damage.
too greedy here.
All right, final question. So this one comes from, I'm kind of working in reverse order here to chronological. This one comes from my build just that I posted 2 days ago. Was the mom build, the martyr who used Life Transference to heal others and also cooked really good pot roast.
Very important to the optimization.
Yes, it was. Okay, so this surprised me a little bit, because initially when I saw this comment that somebody asked, I was like, I don't think so. And then, like, the next comment and the next comment and the next comment, I got like 6 or 7 people that were like, couldn't you do this, and wouldn't that be great? And I was like, I mean, I don't think so, but you know what? The more I thought about it, I was like, actually, maybe this would work. Okay, so here's the question. How do the twin spell metamagic option that sorcerers have and the Life Transference spell interact with each other, if at all? Do they work together? So specifically, with Life Transference, right, you sacrifice some of your health and you mend another creature's injuries, we're told. You take 4d8 necrotic damage, which can't be reduced in any way, and one creature of your choice that you can see within range regains a number of hit points equal to twice the necrotic damage you take. And then we have Twin Spell, When you cast a spell that targets only one creature and doesn't have a range of self, you can spend a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level to target a second creature in range with the same spell. To be eligible, a spell must be incapable of targeting more than one creature at the spell's current level. Blah, blah, blah. Examples.
Okay.
So obviously the question is, right, could I cast Life Transference and then Metamagic twin it to take 4d8 damage and essentially heal 2 people for double the amount I just did damage to myself for? Or
what's the stated range on it?
30 feet? 30 feet or 60 feet. It's not self.
It's not self.
Okay.
It's not self.
Okay. That was my...
So...
But
yeah.
it does affect you.
No.
You can't...
I say no, and this is why. I think technically there's an unspoken target in the spell, and it's yourself, right? You're targeting somebody, but you're also the target of the spell.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to say
therefore,
yes.
no.
Because it doesn't say...
Good cop. Good cop says he'd allow it.
I'd allow it. And the reason that was my reasoning is that it says that the range... Because if the range said self...
Sure.
Then I'd say no.
But it also says you only target one creature. But 2 creatures are affected by the spell.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
all
then,
spells originate from one place.
So
do they
then
not?
you're
involved in every spell.
ruling, would you do 48 once and heal 2 people, or would you roll 48 for that
Well,
person?
okay,
and
wait,
48
hold
for
on,
that
hold on.
person?
That's
I want
mine.
I want to get to
That
that. I
was
want to
actually
get to that.
Mine, that's mine. Is
Okay.
a wild card cop over here
Okay.
is I would allow it
That's my job.
if you dealt the 48 to yourself twice and then did the
Yep.
individual.
Yeah, okay. I would allow that
Yeah.
actually, because you're
100%.
doubling the risk for potentially,
Well,
double
and
the
that's where
reward or
that's
whatever.
the,
So,
the origination of all that health is taking your health. So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I do agree that there's a very clear argument to be made that there is more than one target to
Yes.
this spell. Basically, like you are pulling life from yourself and then distributing it to somebody to another target.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I think self in there
Yeah.
kind of
It's
implies.
implicit.
Yeah, I
and
think-
I agree it's implicit, but it doesn't say it in the rules.
No,
So, Rob,
it doesn't.
Right. I think what it
If we're
boils
going
down
boils-
to is, are you also a target of the spell, or are you simply affected by it, right? That and that's kind of where the semantics
Right.
hinge. I
Yeah,
think
totally.
it's like no. Some people are watching this and screaming probably.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, the target is the person who receives the healing,
Yeah.
right? And in order to make that happen, yes, you take some damage, but you're not the target of the spell. You just happen to take some damage when you cast it. And then, of course, the other side is, like we're kind of both targets here. Like I'm I'm a target of the spell by taking damage, and you're a target of the spell by receiving healing.
but I like that approach.
Yeah, I think being able to
I think that
just
balances it,
take that
'cause
damage
it's
twice and then divvy it out twice, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Because technically, twin spell, like it makes them targeted by the same spell, and the spell starts with you taking the damage.
Sure.
Right.
So you could make a very clear argument of I want to pull the life from myself, and then for this creature, and then also twin it to pull it from that for that creature as well.
or the opposite side of that. If I would either say that or say the health that you roll splits between the 2 characters. One of them is if you can roll
because
5,
it's doubling
one
it.
gets
So
3,
basically,
one gets
it's
2.
just doing your health and damage in that case.
Yeah. So you
I
roll
mean,
once. and
either
then you
way-
do, so either way, but
I like
would
the
say,
riskier
do you want to
option,
take the
though.
risk? I like risks.
Because then
so-
the player has to really choose if this is something what they want to do. And with your build that basically heals back everything, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so I mean, eventually we got to a point where
Yeah.
like we were essentially taking no damage,
Yeah.
or at least we were recovering all of the damage that we took, which was really fun. So if you haven't seen that one, check it out. I had a lot of
Moms
fun
are
putting it
just
together.
great.
Moms
We love
are
moms.
great.
Yeah.
So maybe just to clarify,
Yeah.
your interpretation of rules as written, no, it doesn't work. Yes, it does.
No. The
No,
rules
it does
as
not.
written, I would say no, it doesn't
Okay,
work.
but you would allow it if the player took double damage.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching. I love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you to my DMs for being here and for all of your valuable insight.
This was a crunchy episode.
It was, but
we were in the weeds.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Me too.
I think I'm going to have to do this.
I got so many burrs now.
We took all the birds from his saddle and just now we have them.
Oh my gosh.
I hope you feel better about yourself.
They're
You just
everywhere.
reverse life
Yeah, I'm
transference
like-
us.
I'm Right. Happy Thanksgiving. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, you know what? Even if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving anyway.
Yep.
And that that we see you again really soon on the channel. So take care and bye.
Bye.
All right, this is a test of the emergency broadcasting system, D&D. Man, I'm so good at the other intro. I'm so practiced, and this one, not so much.
We know who your favorite child is.
Well, it's the one that's paying the bills.
So an area.
Wouldn't that be nice?
One day.
Let's see.
One day.
Dallin, your face
I'm blind.
is
I can't see anything.
so bright. You look
Hi.
like a cherub.
Thank you.
D&D.
Long tips, short tips, tri-tips?
No tips. We're
No?
done with the tips.
Some people have steak for Thanksgiving, so
No.
those of you in the United States.
Disturbing.
So anyway, we get derailed so easily.
Yep.
I can't remember what I was going to say, and my response in my head is, well, I'm not going to say what my response in my head usually.
He wants to keep you fans
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
All 25 of you. Stay, please.
You know, but like my hiney is
You
just
vampiric touched
smooth.
Use thaumaturgic
Like,
siphon.
I am burr free. Could you use haste to make? Oh, you know what? Sorry.
Have we already done this one?
Back up. No. Let me start this. Let me start this over.
So in this episode, you said that your hiney is smooth.
Yes, my hiney is smooth, and something about bareback.
Yeah, something about going bareback.
I cut both of those.
Wonderful episode.
Ooh.